every day I have to pay my bills. That's the way I look at it. I don't feel like going to the gym or practicing every day, but I owe and I need to pay my bills. That's the way I tend to look at things. And I think I have this concept in my head of never get in the habit of doing what's most comfortable for you over what's best for you. And that's really drives my work ethic. And I think we all have to remember that if you've been blessed and you have a decision to be better, you owe. So I don't want to deprive the universe of the best version of me. I don't want to deprive the universe of the best version of me meeting you, Joe. So I get up every day and I keep swinging. If it was up to me, I would sit on the couch, honestly, eat potato chips, donuts, and play my Nintendo Switch. But I don't want to let you down. So I figure if I do my very, very best and you do your very, very best, and collectively we put this best energy in the world, that has to equal something magnificent. And I want to see what that magnificence is.
Welcome, Richard, to the Not Almost There podcast. It is an honor to have you here today.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
I read your book on Possible, and I was absolutely blown away. That made me deep dive into your interviews on NPR, which I thought was fantastic. Your documentary, which I want to talk about, it was a little bit hard to find, but once I found it, it was well worth it. It's only about 23 minutes long. But really what I want to start is with your story. You have such an incredible, rich story, and the audience really needs to, I think, hear and understand it. And your book is so well written, but if you wouldn't mind taking us back to Baltimore when you were a toddler, I think that's the best place to start this.
Yes, I will. And it's unfortunate. I guess it's fortunate. It depends on how you want to look at it. The documentary is usually 30 minutes long, but because of Magnolia, they cut it to fit their network. So when you're searching for it, it's called Hi, I'm Richard Antoine White and not Raw Tuba, just so the audience know. But Joe, back in Baltimore, every day, like any normal kid, I woke up and I wanted to play, but a few things were different from a normal childhood in that I would search the gutters for coins so that I could go to the local open market to get some chicken gizzards or chicken wings or whatever. And amazingly, people drop coins and they end up in the gutter system, like the drainage that drains the water when it rains. And so I would often find coins, make my way up to the open market. I'm sure I didn't have enough, but they would always give me something. And then I would eat that food, and because it was so unpredictable as to where my next meal would come from, I would store it under my tongue. And also I searched in dumpsters and would find shoes that were too big, but I would stuff them with newspaper and fill them so that they would fit. And this was at age 4 and 3. And then at the end of the day, my task was to find my mom. And sometimes I was successful, sometimes I wasn't successful. And when I wasn't successful, I ended up sleeping under, abandoned trees, old trees, or an abandoned building. And that was my life. And oftentimes I'm asked, would you change it? No, it's the hand I was dealt. I played it to the best of my ability. And I tend to think that life is fair because it's unfair to everyone.
Yeah, that's a great setup, but I want to dive a little bit deeper into that because I thought it was just when I read the part that you had developed some scars, or you have something on your stomach, and it was from rats essentially eating your body at some point. And as grotesque as that may seem, as a little boy, I cannot even fathom that happening. Can you expand on that a bit? Because I think it shows like how serious this was.
Yeah, my mom unfortunately had her own demons and battles, and her battle was with alcoholism. And I guess this is a serious disease when it calls. I mean, you do what you need to do to serve that craving. And I was left in a burnt out, abandoned building. And, the crazy thing is people were aware of the situation, but everyone feels empathy. So no one wants to call Child Protective Services because they don't want to take the kid away from, my mom. And ultimately, they called one day. I was crying. My uncle Ricky Jr. came down and saw rats gnawing away at my side. I still bear the scar today. And he shot them like bam, bam. And he thought right after, oh my gosh, I probably made the kid deaf. Luckily, my hearing is fine, and he saved the day actually. So that's That is Baltimore. I think if anyone ever watched the show The Wire, you think some of it's outrageous. It is the truest depiction of Baltimore that you could have.
I can't imagine going through that. And you were, when that happened, were you around 4 years old?
Oh no, I was much younger than that, like baby.
Oh, okay.
You
Got
know, and
it.
so
So you were,
he had to tell me what happened. Like I'm talking baby. Like I said, well, what's up with this scar? And he said, well, let me tell you. You know, many
yeah,
years after the event.
yeah. And then when you say you were trying to find your mother's, is that because you guys were together during the day and then she would wander off and be drinking with folks and then you just couldn't find her at night sometimes?
Yeah, I think we were both guilty. I think I didn't have structure or rules. You know, the thing that's awesome about being homeless is that there's no structure. There's no time to come home because there is no home. So I wandered off and just pretty much did my thing and tried to find it at the end of the day. Ultimately, me and my mom had such a strong love. I tell people all the time now, she is a hero. This is not a sob story. This is a triumphant story because ultimately she did one of the hardest things there is to do, and that is to give her kid up so that they can have a better chance at life. So she's my hero.
I think that's amazing, and the it's clear in the book the love that you have for her, and how even though you were living in that state, you would have rather lived with her in that state than be pulled apart at your young age, and then you realized it obviously later in life that that was the right thing. What was it? What was the point that you decided, or someone decided for you, that you needed to be pulled out of her care?
So one day I couldn't find my mom, and you can actually look it up. I think like 1978. It was the blizzard of all blizzards in the Northeast. I mean, this thing was so massive. The police were driving around in blue ribbon trucks. I don't even know if that bridge still exists, but they were driving around in these big bread trucks. I was barefoot. I tried to find my mom. To me, it seemed like I was banging on the doors like Hercules of family members, but no one heard me. And I crawled in what's called a vestibule. In Baltimore, it's known for marble steps and that leads to a vestibule, which is just a little entryway before you actually enter the house. One of them happened to be open. I was found frozen. Next morning, I woke up. I just remember a sea of yellow and lots of tea. They called authorities, and the people that originally adopted my mom started to take legal custody of me because they thought that if this happens again, I might not survive.
Wow,
And so that began my life with my foster
yeah,
parents.
and I know, and a lot of these questions I've read in the book, but I want to lead you to explain a little bit of this for the audience here. So what were your feelings then when you were kind of taken away from your mother at that point?
Oh man, I was angry. Like all I thought was these people were taking me away from the person I love. And then I got to, in the book, I think I call it Buckingham Palace. I got to this house where you ate 3 meals a day. I would slide half a sandwich in my pocket. And they were like, look, if you want another sandwich, just ask. And I was like, yeah, right. I'm going to put this sandwich in my pocket. I would take something called a bubble bath and put on pajamas. And they thought I was sick because the next morning I'd be on the floor in my dirty clothes sleep because that's what I was most comfortable. And I was so angry at them that my best friend for years was myself. I talked to myself in the mirror because I refused to talk to the people that took me away from my mom. And one defining moment, because there was a transition there too, I still went to school at Holland Park, far away from my foster parents' home. I'm not sure how the school system works or how I had to go there. But my mom came to the fence one day and talked to me. She sang Grease Lightning. We sang a little tune and it was forbidden. She wasn't supposed to do that, but I was so happy. And she said to me, I love you. Don't ever forget that. And I'm giving you better life by letting you stay with the family. And then she gave me a big kiss and said, hey, this will be our secret. Don't tell them. And at that moment, I felt a sense of belonging because I wasn't going to let my mom down, my hero. And she explained to me what she was doing. And I walked away with like some magical power. This is our secret. I saw my mom. Now I'm going to do good for mom. I really felt like I belonged in, and that started to change the tide at Vivian and Richard's house.
I know the first time she took you shopping too, like you went to I think it was a Kmart, right?
Yes.
And that was an incredible story too. Can you touch on that?
I was blown away. Like we went to Kmart,
Yeah.
and as a little kid, you're struggling. I think all little kids, the first time you see high top shoes, you're just fascinated. I was like, "Oh man, I want these. Which ones can I get?" And Vivian looked right at me and said, "You can have both." I was like, "What?" So I start piling the cart up with shoes, different colored jeans and clothes. I was so happy, and she was like, "Get whatever you want." And then I had a moment of panic as we were leaving the store. I was like, "Oh my gosh, who's going to pay for all this?" I've never had this luxury, right? She whipped out back then, I guess I'm dating myself, a checkbook and wrote a check
Yeah.
and paid for everything. And so the next day I go to school. I'm excited. I got my new shoes, my new clothes, and I'm made fun of because they're Kmart brand. I didn't have Jordache. I didn't have Nike. I didn't care what those kids were saying. They had no idea, man. I was like, these are my new clothes, and I'm very, very, very proud.
It just puts things in context, right? Like how you didn't have anything, and then you get presented with just shoes, period, and how happy you were. And I just I try to teach my kids that as much as possible, but it's tough to put things into context because they're growing up in a blessed
Hmm.
life and a much different life than I did, and definitely way more fortunate than many people out there. Which brings me to kind of my next question on this was when you were growing up and you were a toddler running the streets or walking around aimlessly many times, was there other people your age at that point with you that you were hanging out with that were in a similar predicament? Like, how bad was the problem?
No, I don't think anyone was in the predicament. And I think if you put in context in the 70s, people were used to looking out and taking care of each other. And that generation, if you were born just a little before that, they had a really rough time because a lot of people ended up dependent on alcohol or heroin or these drugs, which entered the States doing that. And I think what's important for people to know is that I had, 4 years, 4 or 5 years of a rough life. Some people have 10, 15, 20, 30 years. So in that regards, I feel very blessed. And I think even if people wanted to take me in, there were two obstacles in front of them. One, I was my mom's child and she was going to let you know. So even if you tried to
Mm,
intervene, it wasn't going to happen, which I didn't understand that until years later. People told me, no, you was your mom's child and she wasn't going to let anyone take care of you. And then also some people cried and in a very weeping way and said, we couldn't afford to take care of you, which is astonishing to me, but that's how hard times were. Like another kid at the table meant that one of their kids possibly wouldn't eat. I get it. And I'm not angry. That's just the way it works out sometime. I'm glad that life navigated me in such a way that it blessed me with an extraordinary imagination. And I call it my superpower. I didn't see other kids living the life that I lived, but sometimes I had to imagine a warm blanket. I had to imagine a full tummy. And I think it actually saved my life.
wow. And when you were talking to yourself at Vivian's, what were some of the things you were saying? Do you recall?
Oh yeah, it was very basic. Like, hey, I know you. It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be me and you. Oh, look at you. You're smiling the same as me. Wow, you're waving. You're doing exactly what I'm doing. How you doing, buddy? That kind of conversation.
Got it. Got it. So then you're in school. You start to probably fit more in. Albeit some kids have better brands on. Uh, what I know you start getting into some fights, some altercations. Like what was happening? Was it tough for you to acclimate to that environment?
It was because I didn't have rules. It's like, I think I depict this in the book. I want to ride the sliding board, so I pushed everyone out the way and threw the person at the top
Right.
off the sliding board and went, wee! And then I got to the bottom and I got in trouble because they're like, you wait your turn in line. I was like, but I wanted to ride the sliding board. I didn't understand. So I think the regulations and rules were hard for me to adjust. And I think from a teacher's point of view, no one realized how much I didn't know. Because when you don't know anything, everything is right. Right? I didn't
Right.
know anything. So I didn't see anything wrong with throwing the person off the top of the sliding board. I didn't know any better.
And at that point, did you have a mentor outside of the family, like at that point in your life, or someone
I
that was
think we
helping
were
guide the way?
I think we were all trying to figure it out. I was deficient at reading. The transition of switching schools to the emotional scars of just being in a new family, And, my life really didn't change until about fourth grade when somebody came to the school with a ton of instruments. And me and my friend, later became my best friend, Dante, was sitting there trying to decide what instrument to play. And I looked at him and said, yo, we got to play trumpet. It only got three valves. It's easy, right? Boy, was I wrong. And so things didn't get better for me in school. My parents brilliantly had this idea that they would take this trumpet away from me, and they gave me an ultimatum. The only way I get the trumpet back if I turn my grades around and pass. Band gave me a sense of belonging, so I was determined to get that trumpet back. I've never repeated a grade since I got my trumpet back. I developed a culture with people that, had the same goal as me. There was a collaborative environment, and, that moment changed my life forever.
That's incredible. So at that time, wait, were you starting to see that you were going to outwork people, and when it came to things you were passionate about, like music in this case, that you would practice more than others, or was it just something you started to toy around with at that
Later
moment?
on, I realized some of the things you're talking about. At this early stage, I think it just gave me a sense of belonging, a sense of collaboration, in a sense that, oftentimes I'm asked, hey, when you play music, do you feel awkward that you're often the only black person, classical music in particular? And I go, we all play from the same notes, right? So I think I was
Right.
fascinated collectively with the goal of playing like, the TV show, Sanford and Son theme, and jamming on it. Later in life, though, we can talk about the determination that I had with music and seeing people that were more talented than me, because I figured out something that there will always be more people talented than me, but no one will outwork me, and I can control that.
Did you find that you had a talent or a knack for music, even though you had a sense of belonging? Was it something you just got and you understood more than others?
I think music gave me the gift of storytelling. I'm going to date myself again. I learned to play tuba on what's called a cassette tape. So I walked in the room alone and it says, hello, welcome to the tuba. Boop, this is B flat. Pause the tape. When you have mastered B flat, we will move on to C. Boop, boop. So I learned it orally. So I think what I infused into those music notes was my life, my story. So although I couldn't read music when I auditioned for the School for the Arts, it was apparent that there was passion behind the sound. There was something story worthy of a story, and I got in. But that's how I learned. So my again, my superpower was my imagination. I could imagine what I want the note to sound like and tell my story. And I think that was the gift that I had that pushed me above everyone else playing musical instruments.
And you were also in sports around that time too, right? Football.
Oh yeah, I'm 6'5", 340 pounds. I was supposed to be a football player. I broke my hip, showed up at the Baltimore School for the Arts many years later with crutches, a sousaphone. Like I was really wearing it, with the bell on
Yeah.
my head and crutches to audition the day after auditions were over. And the director said, "What are
Yeah.
you
I want
doing
to.
here?" Oh, go ahead. Am I too
Yeah.
too
I
far
want
ahead?
no. No. I want to dive into that because I think that's incredible. But how did you go from then? Well. First off, what? How old were you when you broke your hip?
This was eighth grade. This is like somewhere around in eighth grade because I would have been entering high school or about to enter high school, and then the trajectory of my life changed from wanting to be a football player and carpenter at a vocational tech school to, well, what else I got? I got the tuba, so I'll go audition for School for the Arts.
So how did you know that back then? Because I also want to put in perspective, and I heard you say this, that there was no internet really. Like there was the encyclopedia. How did you even know that this school existed and it's something that you wanted to try out for?
I was in Twigs, which is to work in gaining skills. I never took it seriously. It's a prep school for the School for the Arts, but at that time, I knew because my schoolmates had just taken the audition. Some of them knew they wanted to be an actor. Dante knew he wanted to be a trumpet player, and they were bragging that they took the School for the Arts audition. So after I broke my hip, I was like, I'm just gonna go down School for the Arts and audition like randomly, like no clue about when the auditions were or whatever. Literally,
Just
just
like
woke
showed
up
up one day.
and
Yeah.
said, I'm going to audition for the School for the Arts on a Saturday.
This- on the one day that has the least likelihood that anyone would be there. Yeah,
Exactly.
that's hilarious. So you show up there. What happens?
I tell Dad, hey, we're gonna go audition for School for the Arts. He says, right now? I said, yes, sir. So we get in the car with my sousaphone. I'm on crutches. I'm wearing the sousaphone. I'm trying all the doors. None of them are opening. And then one opens, and the director of the music school just happened to be there because he forgot something. And he looked at me and said, what are you doing here? And I said, I came to audition. He said, well, auditions were yesterday. And I looked him in the eyes and boldly said, but I'm here now. And he said the audacity of determination made him go, wow, this kid is determined. I ought to hear him. So we walked upstairs. I played a little Mozart thing, and then he was like, interesting. And he put some sight reading in front of me, pointed to a note, E flat, said, do you know what this is? And I said, yeah, it's this. He said, yeah, but do you know the name of the note? I said, yeah, it's this. I pushed down the first valve. He said, yeah, but what's the name of it? I said, man, I said it's this. And he said, okay, let's try this a different way. If I play this on the piano, can you play it back? And I was like, of course. So he played something on the piano. I played it back. And he said, hold on. Went and called the brass faculty, came back and said, you must be one of the luckiest kids on the planet. We're going to accept you in the Baltimore School for the Arts. To give your listeners an idea, out of 600 kids they hear, they may accept 35 of them.
That is incredible. Do you ever think that if you showed up during the auditions that you would have had a chance like you did on that Saturday alone?
I think I changed their mindset. I think it was meant to be. And, I can't really predict the future, but I know now that part of their audition process is to pick kids on potential. So you can be extremely
Mm.
talented and not get in, but what they try to see is beyond the deficiencies and see what is possible. Wow, look at that. As my book. I mean, I
Yeah,
think the
yeah.
school was created to give inner city kids opportunities that they wouldn't otherwise normally have, and they're succeeding in that. And I know I've given them more problems than they probably signed up for because now they go to extraordinary lengths to keep their students and go the distance for them.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I know there's many other famous folks that attended that school, Tupac to name one, and others. Do you get a chance to and maybe you could talk about some of the other people that you got to meet when you were there and how
Oh,
they went on. Yeah.
the school is just incredible. I mean, we've got Dante Winslow, band leader, Justin Timberlake, Queen Latifah, Tupac. Tupac was just a genius. I don't know when the Thug Life came. He was a nerd. I watched him do Shakespeare and iambic pentameter. He would preach to us about history, knowing the Black Panthers. Later on, I found out his mom was very instrumental and involved in the Black Panther movement. Jada Pinkett, they gave us this idea that we could be stars. Tracy Toms, you look on Broadway, she's in Rent. It's just extraordinary the list of people that comes from that school, and I actually think that a lot of schools in our country should just model after that school. The difference being that at that school, the adults run the school and not the kids.
Got it. What do you mean by that?
I mean that when you fail a class, you're going to take it over. They do not lower the bar of excellence. I think we have this empathetic approach to understanding and relating to people that are at a disadvantage. So we're lowering the bar of excellence. And in my mind, excellence is void of color, it's void of gender, it's just on the level or not. And what we have to do is create the resources so that people can compete on the level of excellence. And if it takes you 10 tries, so be it. By the 10th try, you'll really get it. And that's what I mean by that at the Baltimore School for the Arts.
It seemed like that school, your instructors really pushed you, and it feels like today we live in such a sensitive society. I think you're kind of getting at that in a way that schools, in many cases, like can't really push the kids like that. How do you balance that, or what advice do you have for educators or parents, and what that balance is, if there
Yeah.
is such a thing as balance?
I think the balance comes in togetherness. There are a couple myths that we have in our country. Just pull yourself up by the boots and strap. Not everyone has boots and a strap. Or just work as hard as you can and it'll work out. I know plenty of people that have worked as hard as they can and it hasn't worked out. I think this concept of unity and togetherness is how we move forward. Together is an interesting word. It spells to get her. And in my mind, to get her, who is her? I think it's Lady Liberty. And I think ultimately what we all want in life and what School for the Arts provided me is what I call the three C's: choice, chance, change. We all want a chance to create the right choices to make the kind of change that we would like to see. And I think that's what the Baltimore School for the Arts gave me, is that choice, chance, and change. And I'm forever grateful for them. And the other thing is that you have to be willing to go the distance. So we're so afraid to go to the point of exhaustion. But if you keep doing what you've been doing, you're going to keep getting what you've been getting. The point of exhaustion is where new beginnings happen, where you've used everything you got and now it's a new day. Now you're going to know something that you didn't previously know. We're also afraid of failing. And in my mind, failing is finding an intended lesson in needed growth. Whenever I fail, what did I need to know that I didn't know that I now know so that I can fix the problem? And I think if you keep that in the right perspective, there's no task that you cannot tackle. And I'm grateful for the School for the Arts for establishing these things in me.
It sounds like just an incredible place. I wonder, how did they determine potential? Like, how do they choose kids if it's not on current academia or current talents? Like, what was their method? Because I think that's so intriguing to me, and I agree. I think that's something we need to pay more attention to give kids a chance that need that chance. But
Yeah.
what was the methodology?
I think like determination, even though it could have been perceived as rebellious when he said auditions was yesterday, and I go, but I'm here now. That showed determination. I also think hunger. If you're hungry, in the interview process, they ask you, why do you want to be here? You have an opportunity to say what you're passionate about. I think that weighs a lot, even if the talent is not fully developed there. And then ultimately, I think the major thing that they have in common when with successful people is that they never give up. They never gave up on me, and I fell short a lot. So I think they roll the dice with potential. And yeah, do they have 100% rate? No, but they're in a 90 percentile rate, and I think they're willing to take that chance because you never know when that star is going to be born. It's why they have a job, I think.
Yeah, and I also read the stat that 99%, they have a 99% college acceptance rate too, and most schools are run at 66%.
Yeah, School for the Arts prepared me to, like I said, to have that choice, chance, and change. And then later, when I went to Peabody in undergrad, my mentor David Fedderly really taught me something. I call him the truth teller because he tells it like it is. He was very hard on me and really revealed where my deficiencies were, but believed in me. And what I learned from him is that the truth will set you free, but first it will piss you off, but then you'll be better for it in the end, because my very first lesson, he sat me down and said, hey, man, I just want you to know in 2 years, I'm going to have to tell you if I think you should go on in this career, and I'm not going to lie. Wow. And prior to going to Peabody, I had seen David Fedderly at the Baltimore School for the Arts, and he gave me a laundry list of things to do. So when I showed up to the audition at Peabody, he said, oh my, you've done all of them. Wow.
Hmm.
And he said there were people that had more talent that came highly recommended, but there was just something in my sound and the way I approached the instrument. Music is not complicated by words. So you can be unread and still tell a profound story with a musical instrument. I'm not sure you can be unread and give a profound speech articulated in the right manner if you're not well read.
Right, right. I don't know why in my mind when I hear the stories about him, I think about Whiplash, that movie. Have you
Oh,
seen that movie?
refresh
Was
me.
it?
I have seen it.
It's just about an instructor who is it's pretty hard on a jazz drummer.
Oh, I've
It's
seen that. Yes. And so I love that movie. And some people think it's hardcore. But the bottom line is when people ask me, what does it take to be successful in music? I often say everything. Everything you
mhm,
got. It's like training for the Olympics because you can train for the Olympics for 4 years and then come up short. And then you have to make a decision, are you going to come back or not? And what I think about all the time is, oh man, I just have to win one orchestra. That's all I have to do. And
mhm.
David Fedderly told me, they said, look, I've won one more job than you. And then I thought, I could win one. no matter how difficult the task. Oftentimes, I'll give my students a piece and they're like, oh my gosh, Dr. White, I can't play it. I'm going to have to drop out of school. So I'll open up the piece of music and I'll go, play the first note. They play the first note, then they look at me all weird. And I say, play the last note. Then they play the last note. I was like, look, we got the beginning, we got the end. All we have to do is work on the middle. And they go, wow. That's sort of how
Yeah,
I look at life in the terms of whether it's a good day or a bad day. The best part about every day for me is that I'm not done yet.
that's awesome. Wait, give me a sense of your work ethic then. Like, how often did you practice compared to others? Like, what was
When I
that?
was
What was a day like?
when I was on the circuit, I practiced probably 5 to 6 hours a day. I would be in the gym 6 o'clock. After the gym, I would do my warm up, go home, eat breakfast, take a nap, come back during lunch, play some etudes, fundamentals, and then come back at night and play solos and excerpts. I did it religiously. I still practice. I just got back from the gym. I'll go get my hair done, and then I'll come back and practice. My philosophy is that I owe. Because I've been blessed with this talent and I've been successful, every day I have to pay my bills. That's the way I look at it. I don't feel like going to the gym or practicing every day, but I owe and I need to pay my bills. That's the way I tend to look at things. And I think I have this concept in my head of never get in the habit of doing what's most comfortable for you over what's best for you. And that's really
Yeah,
drives my work ethic. And I think we all have to remember that if you've been blessed and you have a decision to be better, you owe. So I don't want to deprive the universe of the best version of me. I don't want to deprive the universe of the best version of me, meeting you, Joe. So I get up every day and I keep swinging. If it was up to me, I would sit on the couch, honestly, eat potato chips, donuts, and play my Nintendo Switch. But I don't want to let you down. So I figure if I do my very, very best and you do your very, very best, and collectively we put this best energy in the world, that has to equal something magnificent. And I want to see what that magnificence is.
yeah, yeah. I love it. So this might be a silly question. That then, having said that, was there ever a moment when you wanted to give up, or when you thought about those things, but the action was too hard, or you were getting burnt out from practicing?
Oh yeah, I'm normal. I have those thoughts, but oftentimes it's like working out. So if I do a 15-minute cardio and I'm going hardcore, boy, I want to quit about 7 minutes, but I go, only 7 more minutes to get to the end. I
Right.
think in life, well, I definitely ain't starting over, because I'm somewhere above zero. And I think to myself, well, effort is never worth 0 points. And I often think effort is always between you and you. So I actually have the power. So I'm going to take advantage of having the power. Oftentimes I talk to kids and they go, oh, this is all great. You come in here, you get us excited, we're ready to go. And then you're going to leave. And what are we supposed to do after that? And I'll go, so wait a minute, let me get this straight. You telling me I've motivated you, you're excited. And then when I leave, you're going to have this power. And then you're going to be in control, and that you're going to opt not to take advantage of you being in control, you calling the shots. Because that's what you're telling me. You have an opportunity to be in control now. What are you going to do with it? And then they look at me like, wow, I never thought about it like that. Take advantage of the power that's been bestowed upon you.
Were there other mentors that you were finding this wisdom from? I mean, it seems like you've learned so much from where you've come from to your life experiences to even say all the things you've been saying in the last few minutes. Were there other influences that you were finding around you at that time?
Yes, I think my next book is going to be The Five Educative Languages of Teaching. And the five languages is the dreamer, who's Mr. Phillips, the Paganini of tuba, who taught me how to dream. The true teller, David Fedderly, who called the shots as they are. The freestyler, Ed Goldstein, who taught me to think outside the box. The storyteller, my very first teacher, Richard Burns, who sent me to the library to look up the encyclopedia and all those things. And then the motivator, Mr. Perantoni, who really taught me how to compete and be excited about playing the tuba.
Well, I'm looking forward to reading that book as well. Um, the let's let's take a sidestep for a second because I know that you've over the recent years, I don't know how long back it is, but you've developed a relationship with your brother, and
Mm.
it almost seemed like when I heard this story it was you guys were living in a parallel slash alternate universe
Mhm.
in that he was still with your mom. I mean, first off, you didn't find out you had a brother until you were what, 6, 7 years old. Is that
Yeah, maybe even a
right?
little later, somewhere. Yeah, I think later than that. Because I
So
think my
you find out
brother's
you
he's 37. I'm 48.
yeah. So you find out you have a brother. You now are living with this uh, family who's taking care of you, middle class household, um, getting these chances. But now your brother's still on the streets, right? In Baltimore with your mom.
Yeah, I think his father was very responsible. So he had somewhat similar but different life. And I think when I found out I had a brother, I just did the only thing I knew how. You know, the McLeans were very loving people, but the way they showed me love is to provide for me. Like we're not traditional family. We don't wake up every morning and go, "I love you. Have a great day." It's rare that we say that, you know, but you have what you need and you eat every day. So I met my brother and would just get him gifts. If he wanted an NBA jacket, I would buy it. If he wanted a Nintendo, I would buy it. And one day he got mad, and I think he started reminiscing. The last thing my mom said to him on her deathbed while she was dying of an asthma attack was for him to be like his big brother. That's incredible because that meant she really loved me. Like, holy smokes. And he said, "Why don't you talk to me? Why don't you hang out with me?" And I answered it very honestly. I said, "I don't know you." I said, "You're like a stranger to me that I just buy things for." And he paused and said, "Oh my gosh, I never thought about that. I don't know you either." He said, "Can we fix it?" And I said, "Sure." So we started talking to each other and became brothers. I stopped giving him gifts so randomly and realized that time was really valuable. And we became good friends, talk every day now. He's on the road touring with me. And I think in that moment, my mom was probably looking over at us, wanting us to be united, and we gave her that gift, you know? So
Yeah.
I'm grateful for him. I'm grateful for our relationship.
And in the documentary, you guys play a song together where he freestyle raps. You play the tuba, and it's an amazing beat. I'd love to include it in
Hmm.
this interview if that's all right, just so people can hear it.
Yes. The whole video is on YouTube now. It's pretty incredible.
Oh,
And
cool.
spiritually speaking, I think that's what my mom gave us. That's the bonding gift. She would sing to me all the time. She was a gifted singer. And I think if you watch the documentary, what you should take from that is not only did my mom give me a chance at life by being my hero, she connected us with the gift of music. And I hope that comes through in the documentary because that's a bond that we discovered, that we share, that we haven't previously practiced. When you see that in the film, it's the first time we've collaborated, but I know where it came from.
So, do you think your mom always had something with music from the days of her singing "Grease Lightning"? Was music always special to you and your
Absolutely.
mom back then?
Absolutely. All her friends say she could really sing. I think she sang to me, and I think it's something she passed on to both me and my brother. And I know she's somewhere smiling on us. That's definitely a connecting item, connecting bonding issue. And it's something like, someone, if there was a superhero and they sprinkled the fairy dust on you and you don't see the fairy dust, but something has changed.
Yeah.
That's how I felt in the studio when we created that song. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's incredible. I'll include that video in here because it's just I love the beat of it too. Is it on
Yeah.
Spotify or iTunes or anything like that? Or
I think right now they just released it on YouTube, so you can navigate that, put it up. I was able to post it, no problem, and it's the full. Like the video was cut short in the documentary. It's the full song. You gotta remember, we spent 8 hours in the studio, so there's a whole record one day waiting to be released.
right? Yeah, it's awesome. For the audience, your father, he was incarcerated, right, when you were
Hmm.
born and beyond, and then the story of when you first met him, I think was it floored me. So can you explain that?
Unbelievable. So it's the premiere of Raw Tuba in Baltimore at the Baltimore School for the Arts. Obviously, perfect scenario to premiere the documentary. People in the audience. I want to say like 500 people. We're playing, we're having a great show, and then we get to the Q&A part, and then some stranger stands up and points to my first teacher and say, I just want to thank you for starting him and giving him a chance. Points to my second teacher and said, I want to thank you for being hard on him and telling him the truth. Points to my foster dad and says, and I want to thank you for loving him. And then the next words out of the mouth, I was incarcerated. I really couldn't take care of him. In fact, I want to thank everyone for being here today. This is special. In that moment, I realized who he was. It was my natural dad. First time me seeing him in my life since I was a baby. I ran off the stage, gave him a hug. It was unbelievable. Came back to play We Are the World. Had to take about 30 seconds to compose myself before I played. And ended the concert with We Are the World, and it was a tremendous moment. After that, the next day, I canceled dinner with Richard McLean, my foster dad, to go out with my natural dad, Raymond Toller. And when we went to the buffet, he gave me a hug, shook my hand, and slid $40 in my hand. And it was a
Mm.
tremendous moment because I know that was a lot to him, but he wanted to show me a father-son moment, and he did just that, and I'm grateful for it.
Wow. And you guys still keep in touch today?
Yeah, we made a promise to keep in touch, but you know how life is, and there's so many years missing, and I know he probably feels a lot of guilt. I don't. We do the best we can, say hello, and check in on each other every now and then. The relationship is not at level zero, and we're working on it.
And he's a social worker now?
Yes, while he was incarcerated, got a couple degrees, social worker, trying to make a difference, and it's just awesome to see the turnaround. I guess if there was a book, I think there is a book, The Art of the Turnaround or the Turnaround. Someone should write that book if it's not. But
Yeah.
that is just good to see.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. All right. So uh, just to just to now bridge the gap between the the school that you're in and then what happens post school.
Post school, I start auditioning for jobs, start, trying to find my way as a tuba player. And just before I graduated, one year, I auditioned for about, 10, 12 music festivals, and I didn't get into any of them. And I was really disappointed. So I took all of those rejection letters and pasted them around my room. And on the ceiling, I put a note above my pillow that said, when you don't feel like practicing, remember these. The next year, I got into every festival I auditioned for. And that's
Mm.
that kind of determination. So afterwards, I started auditioning for orchestras. Couldn't get out the first round. Couldn't figure it out. Was trying to make it. Decided that one, no one would outwork me. Two, that I had to eliminate the guesswork. So I started recording myself every day and keeping a journal, and was very honest about my plan and what I needed to fix. Does that mean I didn't have deficiencies? No, but because I had this idea of eliminating the guesswork, I was able to disguise any deficiencies I might have had. And then I won. I started advancing. The big turnaround was the Boston Symphony. Back then, to get an invitation to orchestras like this, if your resume is not built, you had to send in recording audio tapes, and we didn't have this editing process. So I think they heard 172 tapes of tuba players, and they picked three, and mine was one of those tapes. So it was the first time I knew, man, I'm just major league. I can do it. And then they didn't pick anyone and did it again. I sent the same tape in and got in again. So it was incredible. And I was
Wow.
like, I can do this. And then several auditions later, I won the New Mexico Symphony, dream job. Yay, living the life, made the orchestra. And then it folded during the stock crash. And I was like, what is happening?
So this is
So
like 2008, right?
yes. And I was like, oh no, man, all of this. So I actually thought, oh, I guess I got to go audition again. But I had this university job, and I was like, man, can I just work here and stay in New Mexico because I like it? They was like, oh, we love you, but we don't have money. And I said, so you're saying if I find the money, I can have a full time tenure track job? And they made the mistake of saying yes to a street hustler. So I went home and was like, man, who got the money? And I was like, the athletic department. So I called up the athletic department the next day and say, hey, can I teach your football players respiratory function? He was like, what a great idea. Yes. And that's how I got a tenure track full-time job at the University of New Mexico. Ends up,
No
we
way.
were the worst team in the country. And so I didn't have to teach respiratory. They came back to me and said, "Hey, well, all we really got going for us is the entertainment of the marching band. Can you get us 15 sousaphone players?" And I was like, "I can do that in my sleep." So I went and got them 15 sousaphone players, and the rest is history. Now I am the only African American male professor of tuba, full professor in the country. The other African American is a female, Velvet Brown, who teaches at Penn State. One female, one male. So I'm very proud of that accomplishment.
And you're the only African American who received their doctorate in tuba as well, right?
Yes, and it's important for listeners to understand because I get calls all the time and say, "Hey, man, back in 19 such and such got a DMA, and he was before you." And I was like, "Congratulations," and I'm happy for them. I don't have a doctorate of musical arts; I have a doctorate of music.
Hmm.
And they go, "Oh, wow, okay, thank you for the clarification." So, and only two institutions offered the degree, so it's pretty prestigious. And if you were in the UK, it's a big deal. The distinction between a DM DMA is really significant. One's primarily a PhD, like an academic
Hmm.
degree, and one's more centered around performance. As you very well know, Indiana is the largest music school in the country, one of the most competitive. When you go there, it is serious. I think I started that degree in 1999 and didn't finish until 2012. It's intense.
Whoa!
Yes.
Wow.
So,
So then, what were you doing? Were you just getting jobs ever since up until recent, until you wrote your book, or the last like decade? What have you been
uh,
spending your time with mostly?
so when I first left Indiana, I was making good money on, recording studios and teaching adjunct at positions. And now I do it all. I travel, uh, well, let's back up a little bit. Prior to that, I would play in different orchestras, different festivals. I was teaching, playing in quintet. Now I'm a motivational speaker. I'm a full time professor, and I play in orchestra here and there. I took a sabbatical from school for half a semester, and I took a leave from both orchestras because I'm really trying to figure it out. Soundtracks, an interesting story that's not in the book. I was offered to play the soundtrack to The Lion King, and so I was like, "Hey, man, this is awesome." I was like, "But I live in New Mexico, right?" So I call my friends in LA because I know them. I call Jim and Doug and say, "Hey, man, I got a call to play The Lion King. What's up with this?" They said, "That's weird." So they go to their opera concert and they was like, "Yeah, man, you should take it. You should take the job. Well, Richard's a stand-up guy. It's really awesome of him to call us." He said, "But you should take the job because it's a black thing." I said, "Excuse me? It's a what thing?" He said, "Yeah, it's a black thing, man. It's supposed to be good." So it turns out a lot of people were angry that they didn't hire an African American orchestra for Black Panthers. And so Hans Zimmerman wanted to make a tribute by hiring obviously a black orchestra for The Lion King, which is supposed to be all black cast. So I called the agent up that was hiring. I said, "Hey, what's going on? When did Hans Zimmerman hear me play?" "Oh, he never heard you play." "Huh. Okay. Well, when did he see my resume?" "Oh, he's never seen your resume." "Interesting. Take my name off this list." So I didn't take the gig
Mm.
because I want to be hired with integrity and merit. I'm going to cry every July 1st when those royalty checks came in, but I had to stand up for what I believe.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
Yes, it's just I don't believe in well-intended tokenism.
Yeah.
If you want to hire me, you should hire me well enough to know who I am, or at least hear. Even if you hear one note, I probably would have still accepted the gig.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Just something. Just put in a little effort there. That's Yeah, that's incredible. So when did you decide to write the book? How did that process come to be?
I think the documentary was out. It was winning all kinds of awards. I had offers before, it just didn't feel right. With Dern and David, felt very authentic, and it felt right. And doing COVID and everything just before that, I was like, man, I should really write the book. And Macmillan called, and I was like, yeah, we should do this. And then we started with what we're gonna call it, and I just thought, impossible, impossible, against all odds. We got to do this. And as I was writing the book, COVID happens, and I was like, man, the world really needs a story of hope. And that propelled
Hmm.
me to just really get it done. And then the universe just came together because the book is out. I'm hoping that we just keep hustling in it and more people learn about it. But my ultimate goal with the book in my life now is to simply inspire hope. And it just so turns out that with COVID, I think the world is really looking for hope.
Yeah, no, I think it's great timing. You certainly do that. The documentary then, I guess I didn't realize that was first. How did that come to be before the book? Was
Uh,
that,
yes,
did people approach you for that, or?
Dave and Darren were writing a documentary just simply about how the arts are underfunded, and what is it called? The film industry has all these different shows, and School for the Arts is usually part of it. And they were interviewing School for the Arts, and someone at School for the Arts said, "Hey, you should really talk to Richard White." So they called me up. Mountain Film Festival actually goes all over the world, and they called me up and say, "Hey, man, we're going to do this film about how the arts are underfunded and the impact that it has on people's lives." After a 45-minute conversation, they said, "You've just changed our mind. We're scrapping the funding for the arts, and we're going to do a documentary about you." And I was like, "Wow,
Wow,
let's do it." And that's literally how it happened.
that's incredible. That's incredible. And now you get to tell your story to, I mean, such a wider audience.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Right now, it's Discovery Plus. It's 22 minutes to fit Magnolia. What people don't understand is Joanna and Chip launched their own network now. So in January, it will be readily available nonstop on their new Magnolia network. I think Magnolia network launch was changed a little bit because of COVID, but in January, just a few weeks, it will be launched, and I'm really excited for the world to see Raw Tuba.
Yeah. So is it going to be called Raw Tuba then?
No, it will be called Hi, I'm Richard Antoine White.
Got it. So I watched that. It took a few. It took a little bit of brain surgery to figure out how to watch it, because I was just like, I hit my friend up too that knows how to get any movie, and I was like, "Can you find this?" It's called Raw Tuba, and he's just like, "I can't." So I was trying to make the connection between them,
Ah,
but I realized, though, I think it was in one of your in the NPR interview at the end, I realized I was on the right thing.
nice.
So yeah, yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad it needs to be easier to watch. So
Yes.
I'm glad that that'll happen soon.
Ultimately, I hope someone picks up the book thing is really interesting. I hope someone wants to do a feature film or TV series or something just so that, the story gets out, and whether you're at advantage or disadvantage, I just want everyone to know they can do it. The book, I think, is doing well right now. We're just getting started, and I thought it was doing great. And then Will Smith came out with his book.
Mm. Yeah,
So
yeah.
but we're not done yet, like I said. So I want this book in everyone's hands, and ultimately, I hope that one day the film and the book, modified version of the book, is in curriculums in all schools.
Yeah. Well, I'm certainly going to push this interview everywhere, and the documentary. It's just incredible. Your whole your story, your journey, all these lessons you've learned that you shared with us today. I don't know. I can't thank you enough. It's been just incredible.
Well, I appreciate you, and thanks for taking interest in it. I think the one thing that we should cover that I haven't covered is what's going to happen with the proceeds from the book, and I hope to see you there one day, Joe. That the proceeds are going to go to the Raw Tuba Ranch, which will be my home, and also on the Raw
Ooh,
Tuba Ranch there will be a stage. And if you don't play a musical instrument, don't worry. You can just sit on the stage and look pretty. But it's a place of fellowship. And 24/7, there will be ramen noodle, chili, and beer. The concept has gotten so much positivity that the city of Albuquerque acknowledged me as an important person, and they're helping me develop the Raw Tuba Ranch. So come on down,
no
be
way.
yourself. It's a place where you don't have to check your personality at the door. You can just be yourself. If you overindulge in the chili, ramen noodle, and beer, we'll have barracks for you to stay at, which is why I'm getting the city involved, because apparently you need licenses and permits to do that kind of stuff, which I didn't
Check
know.
well. Check this out. So I know you're about inclusion. I'm creating one of the first non-alcoholic breweries around. So I will be
Amazing. So you
I'll
have
be
to
glad
load
to
your
donate.
truck. Yes.
I will donate non-alcoholic beer for it, and it tastes just like the real thing. It's just a little better for you.
This is amazing. Yes,
Yeah,
man.
you got
So I
it,
hope to
man. No, I'm.
see you at the Raw Tuber Ranch, man. This is going to be
When's
fantastic. You
that gonna
just made
open?
my
Do you
day.
know?
Oh, we're looking in the spring. We're looking right now. I'm searching maps for about 10 acres, and I'm hoping to secure the land at least in the spring, so most likely spring of 2023.
Awesome. That'll be good time. Yeah, we open in this spring we open, and I'm so looking forward to it. And you have my word, man. I'm there, and I'll fill up a truck and I'll drive it down.
Congratulations. This is an awesome
Thank you.
collaboration, man. We're going to make a difference. Thank you.
Yeah, that's incredible. Well, hey, thank you so much for your time today. It's truly a pleasure and an honor to get to know you. I know we were trying to make this happen in person, but this is the next best thing, and I highly recommend your book on Possible, and it's just an incredible story. We just touched on a little bit of it today. There's so much more, and it goes really deep. But please check it out, and I just thank you very much for being you.
Thank you. The last thing I'll say to the listeners is I believe there are thousands of problems in the world, but I also believe that 99% of them can be solved if we were just kind to one another. So be kind, and thanks for having me on, Joe.